Welcome back to our summer Bible study on Philippians. So, the book of Philippians is centered around this idea of sharing the mind of Christ, and Christ becomes the vision and the mindset that we're to live out of. And that mindset is one of self-giving, of emptying oneself, of putting oneself not first, but instead putting others first. And so that continues. So as these we heard last time, they're to work out their own salvation with fear and trembling. But God's also at work in this, enabling them to do this thing which is very different than the way the society around them is. And so Paul continues his letter to them today, picking up in verse 14 of chapter 2. Do all things without murmuring and arguing, so that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God without blemish in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, in which you shine like stars in the world. It is by your holding fast to the word of life that I can boast on the day of Christ that I did not run in vain or labor in vain. But even as I am being poured out as a libation over the sacrifice and the offering of your faith, I am glad and rejoice with all of you. And in the same way, you must also be glad and rejoice with me. So as I read this, I'm reminded of the old song, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." Or what Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, to let your light shine before others, that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. When we say that when we baptize a child, that we light a candle and we say, "May let your light shine, so others may see how you are living." And as Paul's talking here, don't murmur, don't argue, be different. And when you're being different like this, you're going to stand out like stars. You're going to be one who people see, and they wonder, well, what is this? Because here's a person who's doing it differently. Here's a person who models what Christ is like and what Christ intends our life to be like. And Paul wants to see that. And it's almost this father-child relationship to where, being proud of these children as they grow up into their faith, and being proud of the people they are growing and developing into being, and being proud of what God is doing in their midst. Being proud in the midst of, their struggle and their suffering at times, but also being proud of the way in which they share one mind and a unity together, and they come together. And it's this kind of common theme that goes throughout this book of being that example. And, being like those who reflect Christ. And we're going to continue that theme as we go through the rest of this chapter and into the next chapter. But Paul wants us to understand what it is to reflect this light of Christ, and what that looks like in the world and how it stands out. So I'll see you tomorrow as we continue on through our journey through Philippians, and as we encounter more examples of what it means to live a Christ-like life.